and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball.
Go ahead, Maureen, say it.
I did.
Today's opening day, so go ahead.
Yeah, play ball. Yay, go Red Sox.
All right.
Yay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm going to read a couple of announcements, which are the same announcements that we always have. When you guys are speaking, please remember to turn your microphones on, okay? All right. This meeting is being recorded by the local scene. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. There is an open position at the Old Colony Elder Services Board of Directors. I'll mention that I happened to visit their site. They had an open house last week, and they're in Plymouth. They're off of South Meadow Road in Plymouth. It's an amazing facility, Old Colony Elder Services. It's an amazing facility, and definitely worthwhile checking out if anyone was interested in actually either volunteering or possibly joining their board. It's an amazing group over there. Okay. There are several volunteer opportunities at the Council on Aging, including but not limited to Meals on Wheels volunteers, volunteers for help at the cafe, volunteers needed with computer skills, and actually the senior tax write-off is just about to end. If you're interested in any of these or would like to volunteer in general, please reach out to the director. The next one is, well, I'll still read it. The reminder that the AARP Tax Aid Team will be operating at the COA on Mondays and Tuesdays through April 16th. So you've got one more week to file your taxes. No, I have not filed mine. There may still be appointments. I don't know if there are, but you can call them directly at 781-689-0406 to see if there's still opportunity for you to get in there. And as a reminder, I always like to say that our advisory board email address is coa-ab@kingstonma.gov. We're going to jump to our secretary's report first, and then we'll get to open forum after that. We all got a copy of the secretary's report from last month. There's actually just one note, one change that I had. On the second page of the secretary's notes, under needs assessment, Joan had made a comment that there was a motion to support the article being drafted. The motion had been made by me, but what was left out of this report was that the motion was seconded by Kathy and that all were in favor. So if anyone, does anyone have any other comments about the secretary's report? Okay.
Which one are you talking about?
We are on the secretary's report under needs assessment.
Oh, okay. Needs assessment, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see in red that I had added the language that I really think should be added into this report. I think we can still approve this, and I can get this information back to Joan to finalize it. Does anybody have any other questions about it? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the secretary's report?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mary. Second, anyone?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay. We'll now go to open forum. Is anyone here that would like to talk about open forum? All right, we're going to move on then. I feel like I need a tremendous amount of space. All right. I don't know where to put all my stuff. Okay. I put this on the agenda forgetting, so our first agenda topic is our office hour, and I put it on the agenda to talk about whether or not anyone came, and then I remembered this morning that we postponed it. So there's really nothing to discuss as far as the first topic, the office hour, except that our office hours will pick up back with our May.
That's Kathy and I.
Yes, so this is going to pick back up in May, on May 14th.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any questions or comments and they'd like to visit during their office hour, you'll be meeting with Kathy and Donna. And that office hour is held between 10:30 and 11, right before our meeting at 11:30. All right. We received an email, our first communication through our email address. Everybody has a copy of the email that we received. It was, this was so similar to had we received something in our inbox or something like that. Obviously, I wanted to share it with everyone on the board. And it was a gentleman questioning card playing and him needing to be moved from his original spot, their original spot, I should say, to here, the building, this building, actually. I don't know where in this building a spot was found for them, as everybody that needs that space. So everybody, because of the AARP program, we know lots of groups have been relocated during that time frame, and including us. Obviously, this is why we're here and not over there. So you can just simply see that I had responded to him, letting him know why, in fact, his group was moved, and when he'd be able to be back, when that group would be back in that room, which it won't be next week because taxes will still be going through the Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, but the following week, Monday on the 22nd, everybody, any group that had normally been in that room will be able to start going back to that room. So I just gave you guys a copy of that correspondence, okay? Does anyone have any questions about it? Okay. All right, moving on. Code of conduct, standards, and behavior. So we spoke very briefly about this last month and tabled it until this month because we didn't have a draft of some new language. So a little history on this. Where are we now? We're in April, so this was probably back in January or February when the Board of Selectmen were reviewing the appeal of a member who had been permanently suspended from the center. The Board of Selectmen had commented, there was a lot of comments from the Board of Selectmen about the, could there be an ability for someone to revisit after a period of time? And so that's why this is on our agenda to revisit. So at the very end, the last 2 pages, highlighted in red, is where you'll see some proposed language for us that's up for discussion on whether or not we would like to consider adding some language. So this would be, as I kind of see it, this would be if someone were permanently banned, thank you, and their ban gets upheld, through their appeal process, is there a way to come back?
I have a question.
Please.
I thought when the Board of Selectmen finally made a decision,
You need your, yeah.
when the Board of Selectmen finally made their decision about permanent, I thought they decided on 1 year.
In that situation, they did, correct.
Okay.
The
But-
reason we're talking about this, though, so this isn't for that individual.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
This is for whether or not we want to
In the future.
amend the code of conduct and standards of behavior. So, through this code of conduct, there's steps, written warnings, warnings one, this outlines the process. Should there be a problem with an individual, this outlines the process. But what it didn't do was allow for someone that had been or may be permanently banned an opportunity to still come back after a certain amount of time, to be reviewed again. That was something that the Board of Selectmen, so you're right about that individual, but that was something that the Board of Selectmen had commented on as far as could there be, do we want to consider there being an opportunity for someone to be reviewed again? Okay?
Yep.
So this is some proposed language supplied to us. And it's open for conversation. It's open for discussion. I can read it if you'd like, or I can read it out loud.
Yeah.
In the event that an individual who has been put on permanent suspension by the Council on Aging Advisory Board and has had that suspension upheld by the Kingston Board of Selectmen, they may, after a period of 1 calendar year from the date of their suspension, petition the Council on Aging Advisory Board to reconsider their permanent ban. So that's the language on the table for conversation. Any thoughts?
If I may?
Sure.
Thank you. So, if you recall, at the Board of Selectmen's meeting that night, there was a discussion going back and forth regarding whether or not this person's suspension of permanent should have been upheld. And 2 of the members of the board had indicated that they might have considered that, had there been an option to give them the ability to come back after a year to make their case and say why they thought that they should be allowed to come back into the senior center. So we took that seriously. We listened to that, and we do want to give somebody a chance, because I think this also gives the Board of Selectmen, if they are hearing an appeal, the ability to have some leeway on what it is that they want to do. They were really adamant about the permanent, not for the examples because of what they were using, but because there was no fallback. This is the fallback. And so it's simple language. I just want to get a sense if this is the wish of the board, and if there is something else that you want to see in there. Again, you could also at the same time say that you, after reading through it and deciding you don't want to add that in there. So part of your discussion is, do you want it? And then the second part of that is, if you do you want to keep the language as is? Do you want to amend it? What would you like to add or delete?
Thank you for the clarification.
Well, I think everybody deserves a second chance. Even in prison, they have a parole board, so they can review and see if they're eligible. And I just think that should be in there.
Anyone else? Anyone not in favor of this? We're not officially taking a vote, but do we have any comments either way at the moment?
It's a good idea.
You like it? Okay.
Katie,
Yep, you're on.
I really believe that this is a great move. It will give an opportunity for that person, after being gone for so long, if she wants to come back, or anybody that gets into this situation, it gives them the option to come to us and go over it again. I think it's a great option.
Are you satisfied with the language as is?
I am.
Okay. Any other conversation?
If I may?
Mhm.
Thank you. If it's the will of the board, I do have one suggestion. I think that because it was something that was just brought up today, you might want to let this sit a bit. And if anyone wants to come to public forum and have a comment about it next month, they can. And then
Oh,
because
that's
it
fine.
wasn't on your agenda for a vote, it would be something that you have the ability to put it on the agenda next month and say a vote.
It is on our agenda.
For a vote, though. This is up for discussion. I'm saying for a vote. People need to know what you're voting on.
Okay, we'll move that to May then. Any other conversation about that one before we go? So I'll leave you with, just make some notes to review the language, think about the language, see if you would like to have the language changed or enhanced in any way between now and our May meeting, okay?
So you're moving it to May.
We're moving it to May for a vote. Okay. All right. We are up for the Friends Group and looking for a discussion regarding fundraising, sponsoring events, and programs. Elaine? I'll just start with, everybody has in their packet the current process from the Friends Group, so you can follow along.
Okay, and I brought copies of the emails I'll be reading, but thank you, Katie, for putting us on the agenda. Just want to clarify how the Friends funding process works. But I want to just start off with reading 2 emails for the people at home so everybody can understand how we got here. Back in February, received an email from the Assistant Director, because we've been talking about funding programs and events at different Friends meetings. It just says, as I mentioned at your meeting on January 12th, Mary Beth and I have discussed a variety of programs and events that we want to have at the center this year, and some have costs associated. You indicated that the Friends would like to underwrite the costs of some of the events, and therefore, the Council on Aging is requesting a fixed amount of $2,000 for the year to pay for a variety of programs that will be offered at the center over the course of the year. As the needs and requests of the members of the center change, it is important that we remain fluid with our plans and the programs that we book for our members. All of the programs would be scheduled, booked, confirmed, and staffed by COA staff, and it would be clearly spelled out that the program is sponsored by the Friends in the newsletter, Facebook, and other promotional materials. We do still have Dot McFarland holding craft class once a month as part of the senior tax write-off position, and it is my understanding that the Friends have previously reimbursed Dot for her expenses to provide materials for the class. If you are agreeable, we could deduct Dot's expenses each month from the $2,000. Please let us know your thoughts. We will look forward to a busy year filled with fun and innovative programming for Kingston seniors. So we're all excited. So we have our next board meeting, and I replied back. We discussed the Council on Aging's request for funds at our meeting on Friday. The board unanimously voted to approve your request for funding from the Friends to support events and programs at the center. Below, I have outlined our process. Request from the director to fund an event program with the following information, an email to the president-treasurer is sufficient. Event, vendor, cost of the event, estimated month the event will be held. Once we receive the request will be put to the board for a vote. You will be notified once the vote has been taken. When the event is approved, the invoice for the event is to be given to the treasurer for payment directly to the vendor. This process has worked well for many years and satisfies the IRS and our accountant for our year-end tax filings. We will continue to pay for Dot McFarland's materials separate from any other requests for funding. We look forward to working with you, Elaine, on behalf of the Friends of the Kingston Council on Aging. So I just want to reiterate that we're more than agreeable, excitable to pay for events and programs. Like anything else, we just have a process. You know, it's no different than us filling out a form to have an event at the center, hold our meetings at the center. You know, a Christmas fair, we were just given an application for a rental form to fill out. So I just want to make sure that the board understands that, you know, just all anybody has to do is follow the process, and we're more than happy to do it. We can have a quick turnaround time on any requests, but I would imagine if it's something you're planning, that you'd at least want to get it into the anchor to give people an opportunity to know something was coming down the line, which would be ample time. The board can meet at a drop of a hat to, you know, honor any request, and, you know, again, we're following what our tax filings have been for decades.
Elaine, thank you. So a couple of comments.
Sure.
Reading through your process, the piece that I have a little trouble with. So let me just say that your process is not all that dissimilar from most of the other Friends groups in the area. Okay, I understand there is an approval process, and, you know, it's very similar in nature to yours. Where I take a little pause with the process is the approval of an event. You know, we've had lots of conversations in the past about events, programs, operations of the center fall under the director's purview. So as far as an event is approved, that line, that's where really, I think I want to have some more conversation about
And
that.
I can stop it right there.
Thank
I
you.
shouldn't have said the event is
Okay.
approved. The funds are approved.
The funds are approved. Okay.
The funds. It's not, you're correct, 100%. We don't say whether you should have, what type of events or programs. I will change that. We'll put it to the board on Friday, and I'm sure that's a very housekeeping item we can change,
Okay.
that the funds would be approved.
I have another comment.
Yes.
More of a request, actually. So the nature of the original email from, I believe, from the assistant director was to have some fluidity in the ability to pay for things as they come up. You know, they've got a long runway of ideas, a long runway of things, and yet sometimes things happen more quickly. And could there be an opportunity for the Friends to pre-fund, you know, in a situation like this, pre-fund $2,000 or whatever the amount is, so that things can be done more quickly, and then backfill the rest of this, meaning get back to you, you know, if there's a $2,000 fund or amount switched over, 100 was used for A on this date and this B. So fill in the gaps for the tax accountant and all the other reasons that this has to take place. Fill in those gaps after the fact, but long before tax season, of course. You know, so is there, I'm not talking about big requests. I'm not talking about, you know, but if there were, for lack of a better word, a small slush fund, you know, could there be, I mean, the full accounting of that would still have to take place. The full, you know, everything this is just my thought. Everything would have to be, you know, if that were granted, everything would still have to be fully documented in that documents so that you could backfill back to your accountant. This is what in this situation, that $2,000 was used for. Is that something that would help? I don't even know. We haven't even had a conversation about this. Is that something that would even help? I was brainstorming, trying to figure out, is there a way to make some of it in smaller amounts a little more fluid, and then be able to backfill for the needs that you guys have for accounting?
If I may.
Yes.
So, one of the things that, because we had never gotten to this point to have this discussion because of because they were not willing to change how they worked in order to help us do our job as well as we know we can.
Can we just not have that type of?
Excuse me, I'm speaking, please. The issue became one where the money, when it becomes accepted, gets accepted specifically into a gift fund. It can even be so defined as to be a Friends gift fund, so that they set the purpose of what that gift fund is meant for. So if they make the donation to the town of Kingston, it's not to to the town of Kingston for the purpose of funding activities and programs at the Council on Aging, there is an accounting that is done with that. It's an internal accounting, and it's also an external accounting at the same time as well. So there are pieces and places all along the way to be able to get back to them and let them know what the money is being spent on.
Okay.
And if I can can we stop the back and forth, please? The reason we're even here is because at the last meeting, the director said we denied the request for $2,000. There was no feedback provided to us on my email response asking, can we talk about this? We weren't asked to change our process. The first comment we had on the email was this public meeting a month ago. Mm-hmm. But to the question as far as timing, I said we can react on the drop of a dime, but I'm going to have Chris explain the process more because she deals with the accountant every year.
Sure.
Hi, Chris Bevalero, Treasurer, times 12 years. I just wanted to say that Mary Beth is correct as far as internal accounting. I work with a lady who is a CPA, And she's a director, and she's the head of nonprofit group. She's worked for many different groups, and she has been the sole instructor, provider, and helper as far as our organization. She basically sets the rules. We follow them. We're audited every year, and we submit to all the appropriate things that we need to submit. And in 12 years that I've been the treasurer, we've never had a problem. So we are, the organization basically was started in 1985 and has been going for 39 years without any issues or problems. And as far as, she does not want to get into the point of giving you the money in accounting, internal accounting, external accounting. She said, we're not big enough to do that right now. That's fine. So she said the best thing to do is offer the money for whatever activity you wish, just like we did for Christmas. Mary Beth made the order, gave it to me, I paid it. Vendor's satisfied, everything is done. I think we're going to have to do it that way. It might be a little imposition, but we're right there. We've even done things over the phone as far as instant meetings and approvals. So I don't think you'd have any problem with that. She does not believe a slush fund is appropriate at this time. So we're not going to do it because that's the one that's recommended to us that we're, you know, whatever we're going to do. It's not that it's not appropriate for other organizations. It certainly is. But right now, we're not going to do a slush fund. That's all.
But to Mary Beth's point a couple of minutes ago, slush funds are my words, so those are possibly.
Internal accounting
Those might
for
be the
money given.
There's,
Yes.
aren't necessarily the right words to use.
Understood.
And, you know, it's certainly not meant to, using the word slush funds makes it sound like it could be used, you know, for anything, and that's certainly not what I meant. But to Mary Beth's point a minute ago, it could be money still gifted, donated, transferred, whatever the appropriate words are.
Internal auditing, yes,
You know,
I understand that.
forwarded over in advance of knowing the specific need, and then once the specific need is identified,
Yes,
being able to do that. So that's
Absolutely.
what I'm looking for. That's what I think we're looking for.
that absolutely can be done.
Is-
We're not doing it.
It can
period.
be, but you're not willing to. Is that what you
No.
said?
No. The accountant has advised me no right now, so.
Okay.
But anything else, any other option you want is fine.
Okay.
If you want money for food, activities, events, coffee, you name it, we'll give it to you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Please.
We have a budget, right? In an emergency, couldn't we take the funds out of the budget and then replace it with the Friends once they were satisfied what it was being used for?
Municipal budgeting doesn't work that way.
What?
Municipal budgeting doesn't work that way.
Oh, it just doesn't?
It just doesn't. I mean, we have budgets and we have silos, so to speak, which money is assigned to each one of those silos. So you use the money that's assigned for that particular function.
And there's no,
So
there's no extra money set aside in case of an emergency?
not at all. That's not municipal accounting. No, that's not
Okay.
how it works.
All right. Thank you.
So I'd like to just add something at this point as well. You know, having started two Friends groups myself, also been someone that has been a consultant on a Friends group up in Stowe, Vermont, I'm very aware that what Holly and I had discussed and asked for in that email is something that is done every single day, not only here on the South Shore, across Massachusetts with the Friends groups, as well as up in North Country. I know for a fact, having spoken with 3 directors just in the last week, they get donations of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a given year from their Friends groups and make it work. Their Friends groups don't seem to have the problem with being able to write them a check for whatever it is that they need within that period of time. My sense is that the donation is One that would be specified specifically for the purpose of running programs and activities at the senior center. And it can be set up with the town accountant and the finance director as that. And it would not impact your own internal situation with your accountant whatsoever, because you can make donations from that account. You can make donations to anyone that you want to. It's in your own bylaws. So you can make a donation to the Council on Aging if you wanted to.
And we consider those donations paying for different events with an invoice. It's a process that we've been using for almost 40 years now. We would change on the advice of our accountant. I heard the comment.
Well, I said nobody likes change.
Can I also ask that we not
Lucy,
have
let's
that
let Elaine
conversation
finish,
about
please.
change? This
Well-
isn't about change. It's about advice guidelines, and instructions from our accountants that we've been using for over 12 years. Sometimes you don't like the answer to a question. I understand that. We are not saying no. What I'm hearing is the process doesn't work the way you want it to work. And that's unfortunate, because it's worked every other year. It's worked for 12 years that Chris has been doing it. It worked for every event we've paid before the current director. You know, I don't understand what can be an emergency that can't be voted on by us in a couple of days. If something's that critical, then don't wait for the Friends to provide the funds. You should be talking to the town administrator. If something's that, turn on a dime, that critical, that needs to be done that quickly. We have said we will be available within a couple of days to provide a response to a funding request, and then we pay the vendor. I don't understand the difficulty with that. And it would be unfortunate if we have to take what we do outside the center, because that will limit who can attend. It would also reduce our funds, because now we have to pay for another location to sponsor events or programs that apparently can't be held at the center because, it's something that's urgent. I don't know. The topic of conversation just surprised me that, it's a matter of timing and, we've been advised by our accountant, who has given us good advice for 12 years, and, we will honor them. Other directors have honored our process, and some friends groups do work the way you said they do, but not all of them. Not all of them. We are no different than many friends groups. We are different from the ones you spoke to who do provide that type of funding for their center. But under the circumstances, we can't and we won't, based on the professional advice that we follow.
I would ask, so, I'm asking or looking to see if there can be a compromise made over this. It's not for every, and this may not be a decision you guys can make now. I fully understand that. This is just an ask for you to bring back to your board, and maybe an ask to bring back to your accountant and get some more information about. But I do think, my personal opinion is that it is appropriate for small amounts of money to be gifted over with specific uses. And I know you guys can turn around quickly. I know that you're able to, to do that and to do approvals quickly. But I would like to see personally, a compromise being able to be made on that one piece. Does anyone else have any comments about this?
If I may, one last comment. I think what's being missed here is that the Council on Aging would like to have some latitude in this particular case. What I just heard the president say was that she referred to those functions that are being sponsored by the Council on Aging that they're paying for as their programs. I beg to differ, they're not your programs.
I agree 100%.
No, but that isn't what you just said.
I,
Hang on. I think that's you made my point for me quite distinctly. And that's what we are looking for. All we're looking to do, we're not looking to stop them from having activities and functions and whatever it is that they want to do on their end. All we're asking for is a very small piece of what it is that they fundraise for, which is for the Council on Aging, to be given into a gift account that we have the latitude to be able to use at our discretion at the time that it is needed,
Right.
without going back to ask for whether or not we can have it done, regardless of the timing or anything. This is not just about timing. It's about the ability for us to be able to pivot, maneuver, and have latitude on whatever it is that we need to do at the senior center.
I agree. And that's where I'm looking for the compromise. Any other conversation? Any other comments?
Excuse me, Mary Beth, the money that you had requested, was it for a specific event or just a few in general? Because we didn't see those emails.
That's why I
Of course.
eliminated them.
I
So
have
you're just
copies.
telling us, so I haven't seen.
I have copies if somebody would like to give them to the board. There's extras probably.
I'd be happy to provide that, Elaine, that's not a problem. This was an internal thing that when
Right.
that Holly and I had worked on, and she sent the email because she is in charge of programs, and after we discussed this, this is what we had realized. While I recognize that you do things for a period of time, you realize sometimes after a while, those things aren't working as well as they did before. And we are adding so many different programs and activities, and we're trying to change things around in there so that our ability to have that latitude was what was important. It was a fund of money. It wasn't for, we didn't backfill this. In other words, we didn't sit here and say, ooh, can we ask for the $2,000 knowing that we wanted it for something else? It was never that. It was always the ability to say, if we sat down and we had a really great opportunity come in front of us, we would know without having to question it, we have a gift fund of $2,000 set aside to be able to do A, B, and C. And that's what this was really about, that's all.
I agree, exactly.
Well, maybe we can discuss it at our meeting about allocating a certain amount for the center, but at the end of the day, we still need to pay the invoice. We'll discuss it at our meeting on Friday, because that's what it sounds like you want. You want to know you have X number of dollars to spend. We can certainly discuss allocating X number of dollars, and then we just pay the invoice. That's the compromise.
So in
Well, and
other
that's
words,
the-
not come in front of the board, just go ahead and do it, and then when we're done and we get the invoice, just give it to you?
Well, we have to discuss it further, but those were my first thoughts. I'm one looking for that you want X, then we can talk about that on Friday, but we're not going to go against what our professional accountant has told us to do.
Right, so I think that could possibly be a path forward. But I would still like you to ask the accountant if, an amount of money were allocated over to the COA, if that by itself, if it said for activities and events and, all the things that, could be used for, my instinct is that that by itself would be enough for your accountant. I could be wrong. And that's the piece that I'd like you to just check with your accountant and see if that's a feasible piece to do. So you'd be able to put guidelines, on what that money would be used for. But it does seem, if, it seems like a lot of back and forth in order for, you approve the money, it transfers over, the events or the programs are committed to, but then it still has to go back to you guys to.
No, but that's the difference. I'm gonna guess, we're not transferring any money anywhere. We're just gonna allocate and let you know you've got up to X, but it's not gonna leave the Friends account to be put into another account. It's gonna be.
Right, and that's what I'm asking for, though. That's the piece that I'm asking if
Right.
your accountant to,
And Chris
if there's leeway in that piece. As a fallback, I suppose that could be, but I still think that, I feel like the more direct, streamlined way would be for that money to actually leave And I'm just asking if that would be something that you'd consider, and if your accountant, if there's, if it had the proper guidelines or the proper reasonings listed as to why that money's being donated, is that enough for the accountant? And my instinct is it would be.
I know Chris has talked to the accountant prior to this meeting, and she gave you the information that she was given. We'll talk about it again as a group, but if we're trying to streamline the process, I don't understand why, knowing you have X to spend and then providing us an invoice doesn't streamline the process.
It may. It may.
Because I, as one, the professional accountant is telling us to do it one way. We have a situation where someone's asking us to go against professional advice, no different than a municipality. Municipality has to follow certain rules. You don't have the flexibility in that budget that you would like. We're being asked to do something against a professional opinion, professional advice. Yes, Chris.
You'll need to do it up there, Chris, I'm sorry.
I just want to make a comment on the amount of money. It would actually benefit you if you've got 4 or 5 different activities going on at once, or whatever, and you get all those checks and everything is fine. Each one of the activities is paid for without question. If we gave you, as an example, $2,000, and while you're thinking about programs, Dot McFarland put in a charge for $350 for her terrariums. Next thing you know, you're really down money to use for your next programs. So as far as the timing goes, it's worked for 4 or 5 other directors. We've never been tardy. We've always given them whatever they wanted. And we'll be glad to help out any way we can. I mean, that's our focus. That's our reason for being. And we're not going to make it difficult for you to get the money. You can get it any way you want. You know, a lot of the places that do exactly what Mary Beth says are large, you know, like Marshfield. They have the boosters. They have so much money. The same with Duxbury. They have all there, and they have so much money. We have a very limited amount of money until we really do some more fundraising. So, you know, we're just, the accountant wants us to make sure that each one of our opportunities to give money is well represented, and that she can verify it when she sees what we've written, what's in our program, what's in our monthly statements, and so she can audit it comfortably and send it in. That's all.
If I may. I've listened to 2 people speaking today, and they have said the same thing over and over again. What they've said is that it comes down, it's this director. It's this director that's asking. It's this director that happens to run the Council on Aging, and it's not this director asking. It's the Council on Aging asking, in conjunction with the assistant, after talking to the town administrator, after getting a lot of other input on how we need to move and shape. So I take it as a personal affront that you're laying this at my feet and saying that this is something that I came up with, and that all the blame falls on me because this is something that Mary Beth wanted. No, this is something the council, I stand for the Council on Aging. That's what this is about. This board supports it. That's why they're having this discussion with you today, because this board supports it as well.
We're not blaming anybody.
You have been
Okay.
throughout this entire meeting,
This
and
is where
I'm
we go.
pointing it out because it's rude and offensive.
I'm moving on for a minute.
Yes, please, Katie, because
So earlier in the conversation, we talked about being able to change, your board would look at your language and your process and consider changing number 4, you know, when the event is approved versus to something similar to when the funds are approved. Has there been, or is there it's a nuanced difference. I think it helps by saying when the funds are approved. But is there, I still get hung up a little bit with the possibility of funds not being approved. You know, so if the funds are approved, if the event is approved, if it is approved, I get hung up with that piece a little bit, because it's still, if an event is planned and then asked for, a program is planned and then asked for, and there's the chance or an opportunity for the Friends Group to say, we're not funding this, herein lies the problem. Ultimately, herein lies the problem. So that's, you know, we may not come to a resolution today, but that's my,
So if, again, if an program is being presented to us for X number of dollars, within a day or two, I mean, would that program be booked? I mean, without, whoever's supplying the money, I mean, within a day or two, and to Chris's point, as long as we've been doing this, we haven't refused a request. I mean, if something comes in if there's one event for $1,000 or 20 events at $100, I mean, to get us past this point, why don't somebody write down everything that seems to be a challenge, and we'll discuss it at Friday's meeting.
okay. I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, and that's, I think that's where the piece that we're getting hung up on a little bit. I understand the desire to fund, I do, and I believe it. I truly believe that the desire is to fund is there. But I also would like to see the ability for the director to run the COA the way that she sees fit. It is her job. So when programs are, and I'm not saying that you have said no, I'm saying that based on this, there is the perceived ability to say no. And that's the piece I want to somehow find a way to get past. That's all. And I don't think we're going to get there today.
Oh,
But-
no, because it's a board decision.
Of course, of course.
And I just need to add that I believe we have always been very professional in our conversations pertaining to whether it's here or at the Board of Selectmen's meetings, and don't appreciate the Friends being identified as negativity, a group of people that all only complain, or that we're trying to stop the director from doing something. Pointing out the history of our organization and the history of how we operate brings in the conversation that all previous directors have operated under this process. That's all. If the current director takes offense to saying this director, well, you know, we had 12 years and more than that. The organization's almost 40 years old. I mean, it's not willing to change. We have changed, we've adopted, we've gone with the flow. It's a matter of just trying to find a common ground, which is why we're here before you today, as the advisory board, that we want to fund programs and events. We've had to take more things outside because of the availability at the center, and that just ends up costing us a little bit more money because we have to pay for another location. That's all. So we are really trying. You put down what the challenges are. We'll discuss them on Friday and see, you know, if we can come to a compromise. But we will take the advice of our professional that has kept us legal and safe for many years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody on the board have any other comments before we move forward, or move to the next agenda topic? Thank you, Elaine. Okay. To be continued. Okay. All right, we are at the building usage agreement. I'm gonna let Mary, would you like to lead that conversation?
Thank you. I sent this out back a couple of months ago because this document had been drafted at the same time that the building was being finished. And so the document is 12 years old. It's the Kingston Senior Center usage. Yes. What this is essentially a document that if you go to the back, actually, I want to show you something. There is on the back, oh, I didn't include it, I'm sorry, I thought I did. Normally, there's an application for the use of the building that's attached to this. I'm sorry, I didn't include that in there. Yep, that's the one. So with respect to this usage agreement, it definitely needs an update. It needs a refresh. For example, in working with Elaine, mentioned something earlier in her conversation about how she had to fill out an application for the use of the building. What happened was, I don't know why other people didn't make her do that, because the senior center building application must be used for all of those times that are non-COA times, meaning the building is open by and large, from 8:30 to 4:30, and as you know, extended hours on Tuesday. But on Saturday and Sunday and after hours, the building is allowed to be used by outside groups. It has been. It's been used by town departments and civic organizations, our agricultural committee, finance committee. Any number of groups have come in to use this building. We do not make, for example, the agricultural committee fill out an application when they want to use it in the evening because they're a town, part of the town. But an outside group like the Friends that wants to use it for their craft fair, and as a matter of fact, we have another group coming in, the Democratic Town Committee is coming in, I believe, at the end of May, is it? End of May, and they're actually paying us a fee for the use of the building, that they're going to be using it on a Saturday to have a meeting about, I guess they're talking about freedom. And so they signed the application and sent it in, and there's certain processes that we go along, but someone along the line had created a different form for the Friends, and I don't know why, to have them sign off on the things that they wanted to do. So what I did was I resent this to Elaine to have her sign off on the use of the building for that Friday to do the setup, and then that Saturday to do their craft fair. So she did send that back in. However, I didn't sign off on it because there's questions as to things that were not answered. For example, if you're going to use a caterer, you have to let us know. And so I sent along the information on the caterer. Now, come to find out, this document is incorrect in what is required for a caterer to come in. So that's one of the things that I need to go through this document and update, because as a result of that application with Elaine, I reached out to Joyce Christofalski, who's our Board of Health agent, and brought her in the loop on the conversation, and she pointed out that they don't need a one-day permit to do a catering, a food event. They need to make sure that they're registered with the town of Kingston, that they are a registered caterer, that they've paid their fee, that they're in good standing, and to provide a copy of their ServSafe manager certification. That's all they have to do, but that's not in this document. This document says something completely, entirely different. So I want to let you know that I'd like to be able to go through this document. I'd like to be able to bring it up to date, and I want to make sure that we have the correct information in here for the use of the building. Again, I want to repeat, the building is available for use by outside groups in the evening and on Saturdays and Sundays. The rest of the time, because of the way that public resources work in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, outside groups may not come in and use your building at a time when you would be using it for your own purposes. It's called the Anti-Aid Amendment, and that is part of the Massachusetts Constitution. And you cannot, it goes back a very long time. So our building belongs to the Council on Aging, belongs to whatever functions and activities that we plan between 8:30 and 4:30 on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then for the extended hours until on Tuesday. And I'm currently working to bring people in on the Tuesday night. We already have one group in, But Holly and I have been talking, and what we'd like to do is to see a younger group of seniors coming in, and we're aware that the kind of things that they want to do are different than what we offer for our seniors during the week. So there's a gentleman that we've spoken with that happens to be a rehab specialist. He was with the Spalding for quite a while. He could do a class on balance and conditioning for our younger seniors to come in on a Tuesday night, and we're just waiting to put the pieces together for something like that. So again, I think that this document really just needs fresh eyes and the right language and updating of what the rules and regulations are. But I also want to make sure that the board supports the idea that the building itself is only available to the Council on Aging during the hours of business of the Council on Aging, and that any activities for outside groups, such as the agricultural group and such, use the building in the evening hours or weekends. Yes.
So, anybody have any questions or comments before I make mine?
I was just curious, who was the Elaine? Not the Elaine that just spoke.
I'm sorry, what did she say?
She was asking you
You-
who was
you-
Elaine that you were referring to. You were
Elaine.
referring to Elaine from the Friends. So they
Oh.
had filled out an application for the.
For their craft fair.
The craft fair.
Because it's on a weekend.
On a Saturday.
We don't have a copy of that application. but
And
that-
there is no fee attached. We waived the fee in their particular case.
Okay, thank you.
I think I mean, this is really just more of a comment. I think I would like to see if, in the restructuring of this, the rewriting of this, some language or opportunity for when people are using the room, the main room, the dining room, be it after hours and they followed all the other process, ability to, use the sinks for cleanup, have access to trash barrels. That stuff actually is in here currently, but I know there's been some,
Well, we have a commercial kitchen. So as such, the kitchen itself is off limits to anybody other than a caterer. The one that Elaine and I were talking about, and the email also with Holly, because if the caterer comes in, we need to know that ahead of time. We just can't sign off on her application and say, oh, you're gonna do it or not do it. The minute I sign that application, I'm giving her the ability to do yes or no. I need to know if she's going to do that. So it's not like I can backfill something in. They're allowed, if you don't have a caterer coming in, you're allowed to use the microwave, the coffee machine, and the kitchen sink. Everything else is off limits for a reason, because between the dishwasher, it's a commercial dishwasher,
I
it's a
understand that.
commercial stove, it's gas, the steam table, nobody should be using that. These are just items that are just not generally meant.
Unless they're certified
Unle-
caterer.
As a caterer, they should be well aware of how to, no, hold on a second. The caterers, when they come in, still can't use that. They cannot use our stoves. They cannot use our dishwasher. They cannot use the steam tables. Those are off limits for a reason. The only three things that they're allowed to use in the use of the building is limited to the kitchen sink, they're allowed to use the coffee maker, and they're allowed to use the microwave. Those three things, and that's it, okay?
Are they responsible for their paper goods and
They are
waste?
responsible for cleaning everything up and bringing their own trash bags in and cleaning everything from what it is that they did. They have to leave the building in the condition in which they found it.
I'm asking also about, like, toilet paper, stuff like that. Are they required to bring that stuff in?
No, that's
Okay.
the bathrooms are.
Okay.
Oh, yes, clearly that's something. they're
I
able
know
to
there's
do.
been talk about that, so that's why I brought it up. You think that's funny, huh, Mary?
Excuse me, so if a restaurant in town wanted to come in and cater an event, they have to bring the food, but they can't use any of the facilities in the kitchen?
No, they have to bring
Besides
their
the
own
sink?
warming,
Okay.
they bring their own warming trays. So
So-
for example, when the veterans lunch is done, and
Right.
when they do it on November 11th, and they do that lunch, caterer comes in and it's all in warming trays. They're not allowed in the kitchen
Okay.
to use anything.
So
Now,
nobody
that
actually...
lunch has been going on for what, 20 years now or something? They
They
actually
can't use the
started
kitchen
it
to
down at the
prepare.
Reed.
They can't use the
Right.
kitchen. I think that's maybe a good distinction, or a good way to understand the distinction, is the kitchen can't be used for preparation. The sink is there for help with
So they
cleanup.
can't use the stove to heat anything?
Correct.
It has to come hot. And the only ones that can use, like, the stove or whatever, are our staff?
Our staff that are your
Serve safe.
Serve Safe certification is like Phil and I just had to go through it in February. So we are certified for the next, I want to say, 5 years as managers. We're not handlers, we're managers. So we have to know everything about the kitchen and how it's run. So with respect to somebody coming in,
Ladies?
the majority of people coming in are not bringing caterers in. They want, for example, somebody wants to come in, they want to throw a party, a shower, they want the kitchen. This is not the place to do that. They can bring in potluck, they can bring in their own food from outside. We have absolutely no problem with that, right? That's a non-issue. But the minute that you start bringing in an outside, the minute that you bring in an outside restaurateur, somebody that's preparing food off premises, now you have the problem. The only food we can serve is the food that's prepared by Phil or myself.
Can he be hired?
He's not a caterer. He does not have a catering license.
Okay.
It's, the problem with having to get a catering license is that it's not just the fee, but you have to identify and rent a spot that offers itself out as a catering service. So for example, some restaurants are large enough where they have a section where they are able to put the people that are caterers and let them come in and use that. So that's where they do their prep. That way, the Board of Health knows when they're making their food that they're being certified, because that restaurant has to be certified. Any place where food is prepared has to be certified.
Now, this isn't anything new.
No, this
No, as a
document's
matter of
been
fact,
around
this
for
is actually too old. That's the problem.
12
This-
years.
This is too
Right.
old. Mary Beth's this is not the language we're looking to have approved. This is what's current that needs to be updated. So there is stuff in here that doesn't actually jive with what really needs to be followed. That's where I think some of the discrepancy is, and that's what Mary Beth is saying is, this will go forward to the next month too, because we don't have the new language. We're having this conversation right now, but it needs to get updated to properly represent what is allowed and what is not allowed.
Excuse me, through time, policies, they've changed and they keep changing. But in the past, it's like 20 years ago, was this the same policy?
This was developed when our building was built over 12 years ago. This is the first document. Up to that point, it was the wild, wild west.
It was never followed.
Well, the problem was everybody, matter of fact, it's really interesting. We just, on MCOA the other day, we've got queries coming in from directors that are like, I have people bringing food in for their, to give away to people in the center. Can they do that? And I'm like, they can't. There are two very distinct rules in play here. You've got your potluck supper rule, you have your bake sale rule, and then you have the rule of a commercial kitchen. My commercial kitchen, we got 2 thumbs up for our kitchen just 3 weeks ago when she came through and gave us the 2 thumbs up. We're subject up to 3 times a year to have a surprise visit at any moment. Of course, she always chooses a Thursday, which is really kind of funny. But she comes in and she's there to see how things are being done, and we have to pass that. So this is not your kitchen, this is the status of what a restaurant's kitchen has to go through for certification.
Are there any questions or comments as Mary Beth moves forward to drafting you know, the new agreement, is there anything on the board, that board members would like to see included in that draft? Any requests? I mean, they may not be included, but is there anything that, any thoughts or ideas that anybody has, that they'd like to see, you know, in there? Any pain points that we're experiencing that you've heard about, that you'd like to see if there's something that could be?
It's just that this stuff is never followed before.
Well,
It's
I mean,
never followed before.
the stuff that's in here, in fairness, I would say the stuff that's in, like, right now, it doesn't say the stove can't be used.
Yeah.
That language isn't in.
It used to be used. Everything
No,
was
it actually
No, it says that it
no,
can be.
no, it can't.
It does
It
say
can't.
that. Look under kitchen use.
Where?
Well, it doesn't eliminate it. So it's got refrigerators, freezers, and dishwasher are not
Not
available,
available.
but it doesn't say stove is not
See,
available.
now, that's.
So that's my point, is that I understand the need to update it,
Absolutely.
but in the past, the stove has been used, we know that, right? And, you know, and that's what can't be used.
Because I think it was a couple of years ago, if I'm correct. We had a wedding.
Say by omission.
There was a wedding there. Yeah, it's on.
You're not talking into it.
Sorry. A few years ago, there was a wedding held at the senior center,
Interesting, mhm.
and the kitchen was open, the
Right.
stove and everything.
Right, right.
So, and
I mean, I can certainly see the challenge, but I cannot, in paper, I can see where there's some discrepancies.
Yeah.
So obviously, the discrepancies need to be cleared up, but, is there any path forward for a serve-safe person, serve-safe individual to gain use of, items that are not, pieces that are not used?
No,
Yeah.
short answer, no.
Okay,
The ServSafe certification goes with the building. It doesn't just because you're ServSafe certified, you can't jump into my kitchen and say, I'm gonna use your kitchen now. Again, the people that certify that kitchen look to the two people that have the certification for that kitchen, and that's Phil and I. And so anybody that's in that kitchen that's a volunteer or an employee, Lucy under senior tax work off, or anybody else, works under the direction of Phil or myself, whether they like it or not. Don't look
right,
at
but
Melvin.
to be clear, what that means is that Lucy's allowed to work in the kitchen on the stove.
Without
and all
having a
these
ServSafe
use the dishwasher
certification,
because
correct.
she's under your license, I get
Or
that.
Phil,
I
yes.
get that.
Phil's in the
Yeah.
kitchen, somebody with that managerial certification
Right.
must be in the kitchen at all times, that the volunteers and the employees are there. They can't walk away.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I go in and out, but Phil is in that kitchen the entire time. So that's part of the problem. You've got if you had for example, if that stove were just a regular stove, a 4-burner electrical stove that you have in your house, you want to know, I'd probably be inclined to include that within the agreement, but I'm not. And the reason why is that we can't even use that stove. That is one of the most finicky, difficult stoves I've ever worked with in my life. The pilots are always going out. It costs us a small fortune to come back and have them lit every single time. It's gas. They got to know exactly what they're doing, and the smell of gas in that room at any time will literally evacuate the entire building.
And plus you have to know enough to put the big fan on, so. the
It's
heat
got
is-
what's called an ANSEL system that's certified, cleaned, and worked on 4 times a year by the fire department. So this is not your mama's kitchen. That's why the concerns come in, the commercial dishwasher, the stove, the steam table, the refrigerator and freezers, to be perfectly honest with you, there's no room. We, as it is right now, battle for room to get the room that we need to what we have in there for the refrigerator. In my opinion, the outside freezer is plenty. We don't need the second freezer. What we should have done was, instead of getting that other smaller freezer, we should have gotten another refrigerator and had more storage for regular refrigeration, to be honest with you.
Did you have a comment you wanted to make?
I did. Mary Beth, I was just going to ask again, if there is an activity going on and they need somebody in the kitchen, can they hire?
No.
No.
If they're going, hang on. If they're going to cater a meal, the caterer has to contact Joyce at the Board of Health. They have to be certified as having a catering license. Their fee has to be up to date, it has to be noted, and they also have to turn in the temperatures of all of the food that they're bringing into that building at the time that it's brought in, as well as the time that the food is served. That's the extent to which a caterer has to be able, when they come in to serve that meal, to anyone. So when all is said and done, that's a very high bar that someone has to jump through, and because their certification doesn't attach to our kitchen, the kitchen is off limits to them. Thank you.
Who, so, you know, given that if an outside group is coming in and fills out the application as a caterer, brings their own table, warming trays and all that stuff, who, it sounds like to me, based on what you just said, that it's the Board of Health or the health agent that has responsibility to maintain, to see that they've provided all that information and that they're giving all their temperatures and all that stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, it's, yeah, so.
Yes.
If they come and that stuff's not what they've said, it's not your responsibility, or it's the Board of Health's responsibility.
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to make that
And
clarification.
I have that in an email from Joyce Christofalski, the Board of Health agent, because it did get in, because Elaine had asked the question, what are the requirements for a caterer coming in?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I pulled this up, it was vague. It
Yeah.
was just this, oh, you need the food permit. Well, there's 4 different types of food permit. Which food permit are you talking about? The one-day food permit, so I looped Joyce in on that email, and she was the one that said, no, your documentation is wrong. And I let them know, I let Elaine know that we will be updating this policy to reflect the correct information that we were given by Joyce, so that we have that available to us for anybody coming in.
Director, does that mean that if somebody wanted to hire Phil in the kitchen to work one of their functions that they were going to rent the hall for, he could not be hired?
As of this moment, Phil is not, he does not have a catering license.
Okay,
He
no,
is-
I wouldn't think he'd come under a catering license, he'd come under the license for the,
But he would,
center.
no, he
And
wouldn't.
they would pay him additional money to.
No, I
work
know,
on
we
it.
did, remember we did that last year, because according to this document, it was okay to do.
Okay.
The problem is, now that I know what Joyce is requiring for that, Phil's not gonna be allowed to come in to use his license for an outside group for that kitchen.
Okay,
They have
thank
to
you.
bring in their own caterer, who has to file with the paperwork and have a conversation with Joyce. Those temperatures are important, because it's when the food, just like the Meals on Wheels that come in, Meals on Wheels, temperature stuck in, they want to know what that meal was when it's coming in, they want to know what that meal temperature is when it's going out.
Perfect.
So where do we go from here on this?
I'm taking a
She's gonna
full
make-
pass-through on this from top to bottom on this.
She's gonna
to
do a
review
new
this
draft.
Redo it.
and bring it up
Yeah,
to date.
Okay.
new draft.
Okay,
Yep.
to be continued.
And we'll continue, yes.
We're good.
Okay.
That's good.
All right, we are moving on to the director's report.
I'll keep this as brief as I possibly can, since we need to be back by one. Thank you. I'll keep this as brief as I can, since we do need to be out of here by 1. To update on the cafe, our numbers were down for the month of March, but I have to be honest with you, our numbers across the board for the month of March were down just for the number of people that were coming in. There were 248 meals that were served in March. 60 of those meals were for reservations that were made for the 11:30 lunch crowd that comes in on Thursdays. I'm going to a BOS meeting tonight, the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen is asked to hear from anyone that has a warrant article out there that has money attached to it. Warrant article number 24 is the needs assessment that you voted in last month's meeting to support it being written and being put on the warrant. I'll be there tonight. I've already sent on documentation and information to the board that has been included in their packets for tonight. I will be there tonight in person to answer any questions that they might have about that warrant article number 24. Just so that you know, what I've provided for them is a sample survey, a survey that has been completed with the answers being given and what the assessments were. And then I also provided a completed needs assessment, one that I happen to work on for the city of Salem, that was included with that. So they have this beginning to end type of approach within their packets to see what the process is all about. The Finance Committee is also questioning this warrant article, and I have to go to the April 17th meeting that's coming up next week to answer questions with them as well. We discussed the porch area, and I know everybody had some ideas about the area that's outside. And I had a very long conversation with the building inspector as well as the facilities director, and to put not too fine a point on it, but there is absolutely zippity-doo-dah that can be done out there. Short of literally tearing it down, tearing the entire plastic stuff down and rebuilding it as a sunroom, which is what I wanted to do a year ago. That's the only way forward on this. But those 3 pillars are lolly columns, so they cannot be moved.
So use it as is or don't use it.
You got it. Yep. Okay. The My Senior Center update, I believe we're working on the month of August right now. 2,200, over 2,200 birth dates have been deleted. When I say birth dates, I mean people. People that have not shown up, that haven't been there.
Well, hopefully not
That-
dead. Hopefully not just dead. No.
Just, yeah, no. Moved, deceased.
Moved, not using the
And-
center any
And all
longer.
of the above.
No longer active in our system.
No longer active in our system, thank you. All right, so the needs assessment article, we've already discussed that, I'm talking about that tonight. I ordered a lockbox that, when it comes in, Adam Hatch from the fire department is going to come over. We're gonna run it through a test and see if this thing does what it's supposed to do. The nice thing about it is that it's a lot less than I thought they were going to be, and so if he likes it and I like it, we're just gonna buy as much as we can with the $2,000 that we have in the grant to be able to do this. Bocce Court, I said ordered for 8, I made a mistake. The signed purchase order came in from accounting last night. I received it this morning. When I get back to the center, the purchase order is being sent to the distributor, who is back from his trip and will be mailing it out within the next 10 days.
Is that portable?
It's made of PVC piping. I'm buying literally an entire regulation PVC course with the couplings to make the course. It's got signage for either end. It's got a full set of bocce balls, and it's got a storage container that you use that once you take it apart, because it's like, you know, blocks, you know how those things stick together? You just take it apart and you put it in the trash can, and you roll the trash can into the little thing in the dining room, the closet there, and you're done. So that's finally.
Do you get sod with that? I mean, do you get maple-leaf grass or anything?
No, you do it on the floor of the dining room, of the,
I was just thinking maybe we could do it on the porch.
Your microphone's not
your
on,
mic,
Lucy.
your mic.
I thought maybe we could put it on the porch if
Well,
we
the
had
lolly
something.
columns would get in the
Everything will
way.
be in the way.
You don't have a
Oh, but they
clear.
bounce off of it and give us a better,
That's more pinball than it is bocce, I think. So, anyway, and last but not least, we have the Mother's Day brunch that we're doing the Friday before Mother's Day. Is that right, Holly? Thank you. The Father's Day brunch is being sponsored by Duxbury Village, which is the Monday after Father's Day. And then that's a barbecue. The Mother's Day brunch is going to be, did we say, it's shrimp scampi? Shrimp scampi. Phil's famous shrimp scampi. And then the home modification program, I'm really, really happy with this one. Did you know that there's a program out there that if you need help in your house because you are disabled, because you are in a wheelchair, because you are back home from rehab and you can't walk very well, there is a company out there, the Home Modification, that will literally give you a loan for $0 up to $50,000 to do what you need to your house. Now, this is not to get new windows on the house. This is to put a ramp on the front of the house. This is to lower the counters, to widen the doors, to make a shower that you can wheel right in. The way that this works is that, say you get the full $50,000, it's 0%, but what they do is they put a lien on your home so that when the house gets sold, whoever is purchasing that house is paying that $50,000, okay? It's, I can't begin to tell you how many people we have had that have been interested in this program. And in addition to that, they also take care of modular homes, manufactured homes. It's not 50,000, I believe it's either 30 or 35,000 that you'll give you for a manufactured home. So she's coming in to talk to us about this on May 31st. One last that didn't make it on there was a gentleman I spoke to yesterday, very well-known gentleman in the Silver Lake school system. He's a graduate of Boston Conservatory. He's recently been on Chronicle, and he ran the PCC musical program at Bridgewater State University. He's a gentleman that I have asked to teach our seniors to play the saxophone and the trumpet. And so I'm in the process of looking for a grant, and I've already found one that I think I can nail onto, that will buy us these 4 saxophones, 4 trumpets, to get a little band going with this gentleman that on his dime, this is a volunteer effort on his part, to come in and teach our seniors. He says he'll have you guys playing Vivaldi within 2 months. So I'm excited. These are things that are thinking out of the box, things that are different. We're trying to create a dynamic and different senior center there, and we don't like to rest on our laurels, and we don't believe because something was done some way for the last 40 years that it has to be done that way for the rest of time.
Excuse me, that home modification, back to that, if someone was interested, say, putting in a wheelchair ramp, who do they contact?
Come to it, and you can come to me and I'll give you the information, come to
Oh.
the seminar. This is, let me just say this, I'm gonna give you the flip side of this, because I just had a gentleman that just did it. The flip side is that many people leave their home to their kids, right? And so they think, holy smokes, my kids are gonna have to pay for this $50,000. My response to this gentleman was, you wanted to give your house to the kids. Right now, the average home in Kingston is selling for $625,000. I will say that that person paying, or the kids splitting $50,000 amongst themselves to be able to pay off the lien on that house for a $600,000 plus home in the town of Kingston is a deal and a half.
Well, and I'll clarify, and I obviously have nothing to do with, I haven't heard about, that's not how liens work, but if the house has a lien on it and it's sold to somebody other than a family member, it is actually sold out of the proceeds of the sale. But, so, whether it's an estate or whether it's the person is still alive. So it's not, the buyer is not inheriting this lien. The only situation where it might feel like it's a buyer inheriting the lien is if it's the kids taking the house on, if the kids now have ownership of the house. But in reality, the clarification is it's still the seller's lien that needs to be paid off, so.
If I may, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And what I'm getting at is that the way that these homes are being structured in the sale is including an additional $50,000 to cover the cost of the lien. And so you can get away with doing this at the moment in Kingston.
And, well,
and
anything can be
many other
negotiated
communities.
between buyers and sellers,
Right.
but yeah. Is it a state program? I think that's where, it's a
It
mass,
is,
it's a state program?
it's out of Executive Office of Elder Affairs.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm all set.
Go to the phones,
Okay.
to my job.
All right. I have a question for you about the music program, not so much about current plans, but is there, or could there be, a plan to add drums? The reason being, I happen to have personal knowledge of dexterity, drumming, beat-keeping type things are actually very good for early dementia, early Alzheimer's activities, and they can be done with headsets too. So could that be something that could also potentially be added into the program?
Not into his, but as a separate program. Holly and I have
Yeah.
talked about this.
Yeah.
There was something that had been done with balls in this, but I ran that exact
Yeah.
program that you're talking about in Hamilton. It was sponsored by the Alzheimer's of the North Shore.
Yeah.
And so it literally is drums.
Yeah,
that they
exactly.
come in,
No, I know.
And they come in and
Yeah.
play them.
I have a family member that does it specifically for those reasons, and And like I said, it doesn't bother anybody because it's an electric keyboard that's plugged into headphones, and he takes lessons. So it would be a great addition, I think, if we could find something like that. Those are my thoughts. Anybody have any questions before we adjourn?
No.
Any thoughts? It looked like you were about to say something.
I was just gonna say, I want to accept her report.
Oh, all right.
So we're just gonna move everything up.
So, yeah, so we're gonna have, moving forward, so we'll have the, we'll have, so, things for us to do between now and May is review the revision of the code of conduct that we have in front of us. Think about whether or not you like it as is, you wanna see enhancements. If you have, preferred language that you'd like to see added, please bring that with you, prepared to discuss. The Friends Group, fundraising, donations will be brought forward, to May. And then, between now and then, Mary Beth will hopefully have maybe a draft of the building usage agreement for us to continue, forward as well. Okay?
Cool.
All right.
A motion to adjourn the meeting?
I second.
All right then. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody.